Crosby is a working mom, a Mount Pleasant resident, and now a candidate for Mount Pleasant Town Council. She tells me the issues she'll tackle if elected for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Alex Crosby, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning and happy Friday. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Needless to say, you are a Mount Pleasant resident, a working mom, and of course, you work with your family business. But now you're also a candidate for Mount Pleasant Town Council. So tell me, Alex, with your busy schedule, why Mount Pleasant Town Council now?
Yeah, there's a few reasons that I've decided to throw my hat in the ring. One is I love Mount Pleasant deeply. I've been here for 20 years. My husband is a local. He's born and raised here. So I've seen all the changes that have happened, good and bad. And I'm rooted in Mount Pleasant. We run our family business here. Moving really isn't an option or not something that we really want to do. We're raising our family here, and I want to help protect and preserve what makes Mount Pleasant such a special place to live, and why I move here and why others move here. It's such a majestic place, and I want to help keep it a special place. And secondly, looking at town council, I saw that there was some missing representation. There's not a lot of my generation, and there's not a lot of young mothers on town council. And I thought that it's important for my generation to be involved in local government. People don't realize they're all about national politics and national government, but I really feel like, or most people don't realize, is that local government really makes an impact on your daily life. And I think it's critical for my generation to be involved. And then thirdly, my dad was active in local government, and just seeing the impact that one person could have really has been instilled in me. And so I just would like to get involved and give back and serve our community.
And you talk about the community, and everyone here in the Low Country loves Mount Pleasant, from the Old Village to
Yeah.
North Mount Pleasant. So, what is the quality of life right now in the town of Mount Pleasant?
I think we're doing, people are always complaining about the infrastructure and the traffic and the tree canopy. But I think growth has slowed down a good bit. I think they've gotten it down to, past 5 years, it's been 2%, hovering around 2%. And I think that's a great thing. There was the moratorium on apartment buildings that was just lifted. That was, I think, needed to help with growth, so infrastructure could catch up with growth. We never want infrastructure to outpace growth, and I think it has, definitely, in some areas particularly. And I think in general our quality of life is still pretty good. Yes, I would love to help alleviate congestion on roads so you get home to your family, and make them safer, because I know how dangerous like 17 is, just driving up and down it. People are just pretty reckless and running red lights and speeding, and honestly just the demeanor of the road rage, I feel like on 17 you've really got to be a defensive driver. But I think the access to waterways and our green spaces really is why people move here.
Yes,
um,
ma'am. Oh, absolutely. So, what is that one thing, Alex, in your 20 years of being in Mount Pleasant that actually has outpaced growth in the town of Mount Pleasant?
yeah, I think that Highway 41's been a big issue.
Right.
And they're wanting to. My mom always said prior proper planning prevents problems, and I feel like all these planned developments were happening. We knew that Carolina Park and Park West and all those places were going to be built back in the early 90s when they were slated to be built, and the infrastructure just didn't seem to keep pace with that. And then now with the Republic track, the whole Republic track being 1,600 homes, and you've got Cainhoy and everything across that bridge, the Wando, and that filters in through 41. That's probably the biggest road issue I'm seeing. Also, there's smaller ones like Johnny Dodds and Houston Northcutt.
Right.
I'd take that road every single day, and it's chaotic, to say the least. So
Oh yes, oh yes. And I used to work in North Mount Pleasant for the restaurant group that I used to work for, so I know
Okay.
about 41 and 17 and 17
Yeah.
in general. But well, as we speak here right now, Alex, how many road projects are actually in progress right now for the town of Mount Pleasant?
I don't know the number, but I did read a statistic, and I heard Mr. Councilmember Brownstein say that we've got about $325 million in road projects that are unfunded right now. So I know, we got to finish Bailey Swales Parkway.
Sure.
I know like I just mentioned, the Johnny Dodds and Houston North Cut. They're talking about either doing something ground level or a flyover. I would be against the flyover because I know there's been a kickback from the Bowman Road one, even with the flooding and the rain just
Sure.
coming off of that.
Yeah.
And I take that intersection every day to take my kid to daycare, and that one it's kind of dangerous, especially when my mom comes from out of town. Like the turn signal, you don't know you go straight and then it's a turn, so it's kind of confusing, to be honest. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of Mathis Ferry definitely can be improved. So there's a lot of road projects out there, and I think I read again, and I heard Mr. Brownstein, don't quote me, but I think it
Right.
was around $325 million worth of unfunded projects.
How many of these projects are currently unfunded?
Or excuse me.
Oh yeah, how many of these projects are underfunded right now?
Um, Underfunded.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know. I know there's a lot of works. I was looking at the 2020s or the new 5-year comprehensive plan.
Sure.
And I know a lot of the roads were being mentioned there, and then I know the half-cent tax.
Right.
But right now, I've seen the roads that the half-cent tax would bring up for the county, really, in West Ashley, James Island, Mount Pleasant. I mean, and I didn't see any roads listed for Mount Pleasant. And I know that tax is really funded by Mount Pleasant residents, and if it doesn't pass, if the Mount Pleasant is critical there, because if we don't vote for it, it doesn't really it doesn't pass, or it will not pass.
Well, let me ask you this: would you be in favor of the transportation sales tax extension for Mount Pleasant and the county?
Well, it depends on a few things. I don't like to raise taxes, and we've raised money. For example, highway extension of 526. We sat on that money for years and years and years, and what did we do? You lose the money. Like we're about to lose the money for Highway 41. We've already raised the money. It's just we're under the gun to use that money. So I don't support taxes that don't have an end date, and I don't support taxes that don't directly benefit Mount Pleasant residents.
What should
So,
be and what should be the end date when it comes to money for Highway 41?
well, I think we're approaching it. It's been on the slate since what, 2017?
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't know how long. I know that it was supposed to start in May of 2026, and now I think it's supposed to start January of 2026. So they moved it up, but they need Mount Pleasant Waterworks to move the drainage lines.
Right.
And I don't think that they are able to do that without shuffling around a lot of other projects and money that comes out of Mount Pleasant Waterworks money to move those drainage lines. So I don't know. So it's dependent on a lot of different variables there.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how long a road project like that would take. I would suspect years.
And you talked earlier about those unfunded projects. So, what current public-private partnerships would you be in favor for to help with those projects financially?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that it might take that, but I would be supportive of the half-cent tax if that would be something that would help fund some of these road projects and drainage projects as well. We need the Ben Sawyer drainage, the Edwards Basin, and the Darrell Creek.
Right.
Those are three major. So, back to that half-cent thing, tax is, I think maybe maybe not for roads to fund, but protect some green spaces and also other infrastructure needs like drainage. But
Oh no, you're fine.
okay.
Go for it. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
No, go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry.
no worries. I was just thinking when you said the green space, Where can you put green space? Because I know, talking to everybody from Eric DeMario on down, they're like, "Hey, we're out of land in Mount Pleasant. There's no more land."
Yeah.
So where can you put green space right now?
Well, the Republic track would be a great place
Hmm.
if the town could buy that. If we could use some of that half-cent tax for transportation, buy that. That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
That would be wonderful because I think putting 1,600 homes there would not be a good idea.
Hey, you talk about homes. There's always a talk about housing in the Low Country. What exactly does Mount Pleasant need right now? Is it affordable housing or is it attainable housing?
I think everyone talks about first responders needing attainable housing. They want to live and work. They want to live where they work, but I think it's a much broader issue than just first responders. You've got healthcare workers, you've got teachers, and you got young families. You've got seniors who are trying to downsize and want to live where their families are, to be near their grandkids, be near their families, and do all that stuff, and be near hospitals and things that they'd use, convenience of the grocery store, the hospitals, or whatever they might need. And so, just the price of land here is so expensive. So I definitely think that would take a private partnership, a private and public partnership. I know right now, I think it's like 20% of um, homes in new development or redevelopment needs to be go for attainable housing. I think we could maybe increase that to 50%. And I think also looking at townhomes and cottages and those types of homes and duplexes would be wonderful in Mount Pleasant without changing the overall landscape and character of Mount Pleasant, and get much easier passed by the residents, because a lot of people are saying, NIMBY, not they want it, we want it here, we recognize it's a problem, and we're pushing it out towards the other tri-county area. But then when we come to Mount Pleasant, people are like, not in my backyard, and they're not voting for it. And I think that if you present them with options that are like more character to, and you more I think it needs to explain them to them what these look like and what that really means. That there's a lot of homes. They're nicely built. They're built. A lot of them are market value homes, and then they're just rent. They're capped on rent, and you have to make a certain type of or a certain income level to get there. And there's nothing. They're beautifully done when done right. But I think also you look at the townhomes and the cottages outside of neighborhoods, they would be much more receptive. Neighbors would be much more receptive to the idea.
Where? So you talked about redevelopment and development. Where can you redevelop right now in Mount Pleasant to bring those types of homes to the area now?
Yeah, I know they're looking at some redevelopment at oh my gosh, right by that is it All American Church?
Oh yeah, North Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, yep.
Wow.
I know
Wow.
that's coming.
Huh.
I thought that might be coming, and then so I know they looked at Town Center.
Right.
I know. I thought they might. I think this was in the Post and Courier today, and honestly, I haven't had time to read it. But Coleman, right there, I know they're looking at Coleman. So there's a lot of different areas that you could do it.
Wow.
But yeah, I think you need to be strategic. You need to look at zoning. You need to look at the infrastructure needs. Is the infrastructure there? I think I think whatever needs to be built, we really need to study the infrastructure impact, if it's able to take higher density, and what the zoning and regulations look like in that particular area.
I know that they don't have much land left in Mount Pleasant, so would you be in favor of vertical growth?
Well, there's a cap on the height limits. It's 85 feet, I believe.
Okay.
And then 55 feet on waterfront.
Right.
And I believe the 85-foot was just changed a couple of years ago, because I know that was being brought up recently.
Wow.
Right?
Speaking of which, how do you save Shem Creek, Alex?
Save Shem Creek? Well, like keep it cleaner because it's definitely disgusting. Like you definitely don't want to jump in with your mouth open. Um, no, but yeah, we need to look at. I just actually did a cleanup over there with, I think I did a creek cleanup
Right.
with the town, and they've got one coming up in next weekend as
Wow.
well. So I think those types of efforts are great, and the Charleston water keepers do an excellent job testing the water, letting people know what it's safe, and I think their guidelines of what they recommend is something that we could closely follow.
And,
Um,
and what else should we follow when it comes to those guidelines, particularly right there on Shem Creek?
Yeah, I think they've, well, I think like the stopping of the, oh my gosh, what are they called? Cruise ships.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah, I think that will help. That just happened, what, last year that they're stopped coming in. So I think that will definitely help because I know that they were able to dump a couple miles offshore. So, I think that will help. And, there's got to be a lot of, cleaning up the septic tanks around town. James Island, Mount Pleasant and Waterworks has done an excellent job cleaning up the septic tanks in Mount Pleasant. And I think maybe James Island could follow because all of those waters in I think it's going to be a tri-county,
Right.
Charleston County issue because all of those waters flow together, right? You've got the Ashley, the Cooper, and the Wando, and all three counties are touching those waters. So I think it's going to take effort from not just Shem Creek, but it's going to take an effort from downtown Charleston, West Ashley, and James Island, Folly Beach to really make a difference.
Yeah.
Because I know that the water cleaning, the plant right there on what is that creek called? Right by Ellis Creek.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And then you got
that
Plum
they
Island as well.
yep. So I think it's going to take an effort through all those areas that I listed.
Yes, ma'am. And going back, obviously, to housing, well, well, does the town of Mount Pleasant actually need single-family homes as well right now?
Need single family homes?
Yes, ma'am.
Like, what do you mean? Like
Yes.
more development?
Well, for people, you mentioned the single families. Do they need more of those types of homes for Mount Pleasant? Would that work out?
I mean, I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, and correct me if I'm not answering it, but I did read a study that was done by the South Carolina Trident Realtors.
Right.
It didn't include Mount Pleasant, but it included the other tri-county areas. And they're saying, since the 60s, single family homes were being pushed. And that over 66% of homes are single family homes. And, with the price of land, that can be just, again, so the price of land in Mount Pleasant is just so expensive, or really anywhere in the Tri-County area. And that there's not really a need for single family homes. It seems like there's a need more for these duplexes, these maybe cottages. I'm not saying, and then like multi-family homes. So
Those cottages and multi-family homes, would that be ideal in Middle Mount Pleasant?
again, we'd have to look at the density and the zoning. And I'm not saying I'm not an expert in the
Sure.
zoning and everything that it's said. I've gotten familiar with it and trying to read it. But again, I'm a very thorough reader and I've done my research and look into it. And I'd have to look. I know there's a map that you can look at that shows the zoning and see where the density could be in the infrastructure could handle those types of homes.
Should the town of Mount Pleasant be able to, for lack of a better word, tweak its zoning plan?
Um, Not that I think they have recently tweaked it. So I think I'm pretty sure they have recently tweaked it. And so again, I would have to look at where that specific project would be and look at the infrastructure, look at the impact that it would make on that infrastructure, and talk to the residents and business owners around it. Because I think that whatever it is needs to fit the character of where it is. And the resident, if it's on the outskirts of a neighborhood, those residents, I think, would have to have a voice in what goes there as well. Because it
Yes.
impacts their daily lives as well.
Oh yes. And you mentioned earlier about another impact obviously is traffic. And you talked about Bowman Road and people are some people actually are in favor of a flyover. You say, hey, no, 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 right now. So instead of a flyover, would you be in favor of more traffic circles in the town?
I think I looked at a plan and it was kind of more of a giant traffic circle.
Mm.
It might be too busy of an intersection for it, but it was kind of like a traffic. I'm honestly, it's escaping me what it exactly looked, but it kind of looked like a traffic circle. And I've driven in, a lot of people have lived in other places besides Mount Pleasant. They've lived in New York, DC, Charlotte, where a lot of these giant traffic circles exist.
Mm.
And they're a little scary sometimes. I'm even like, oh gosh, what am I doing? But I think that's better than the flyover because again, I know the flyovers are kind of an eyesore, but then you've got the rain. I know the rain and when it rains, the drainage off of the Bowman one has been an issue.
Oh yeah, I've seen that for myself firsthand, and I watched the people go around that traffic circle at town center. That's kind of interesting as well. I,
Yeah.
I got to talk politics. As you
Okay.
know, your father-in-law is a part of the Mount Pleasant Waterworks.
Yep.
How will you actually address your father-in-law being on the Waterworks board when town council have actually approved their bonding so far? How do you make sure that that's not going to be a conflict of interest for you?
Yeah. Well, I guess that bond already passed, and I wasn't on town council, so kind of I wouldn't have to approve it because they already approved it. So that's not an issue. But I think that I'm an independent thinker and I don't get influenced by a lot of outside noise. And I want to vote for what's best for the residents
Okay.
and not necessarily what's best interest for me or any other type of special interest. Um, I think that it wouldn't be an issue. I would vote again for the interests of the residents. And that I'm a fair and balanced thinker, and that's how I make my decisions. My
Now,
dad was a judge, so
right.
he always my dad was a circuit court judge in Virginia, so he's always told me to be impartial, do your research, ask questions, listen and listen well, and make the right decision, even if it's not the decision that you want to make.
And you talk about influence. I know that your campaign has been obviously promoted as part of Mount Pleasant Mayor Will Haney's campaign to get reelected and bring on new people on town council. So how do you make sure that you'll be independent from the mayor when it comes to those votes?
Yeah, that was not like an interview of like, it's not like I sat down and talked to him and he interviewed me that at all. That's not how that worked out. I just support the conservation effort that he's making, and I think that he knows that I probably don't agree with a lot of everything that he does, and I don't expect that he wants me to agree with everything that he says or does. But I think the main goal is to preserve and protect Mount Pleasant and help. We know growth is inevitable, but help with good growth, smart growth, infrastructure doesn't outpace um, development, and just protect and preserve our green spaces and waterways. And then, so no, I wouldn't just vote with somebody. That's not what I don't think I in good conscience could do that.
Well, let me ask you this last question then. How do you grow Mount Pleasant with smart growth?
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to zoning and looking at infrastructure that meets or not infrastructure, development that meets the community needs in that particular area. It needs to fit the character of Mount Pleasant and that area. And for a lot of people don't realize that not everything, if it meets all these requirements, if it meets zoning requirements, if it meets the design review board requirements and whatever else it meets, it doesn't go in front of Mount Pleasant Town Council. We don't have a say in everything and anything. If it meets all of everything, it's done. It doesn't go in front of us. So it's not like we vote on if Home Depot comes and opens up a store. We don't vote if Walmart just opens up right there. That's they meet everything and they pay the impact fees. And people don't realize that.
Should those impact fees change considering the growth that's coming to the area?
I think the impact fees for small businesses and family owned businesses need to change. I think they're really high and they're pushing small businesses out, and if not allowing them to open up. So the mom and pop stores, I feel like, are not being, the percentage of impact fees for local small business is not fair to these larger ones. And excuse me. And so I think that needs to be looked at, because I would like to encourage smaller businesses to open up, or when we do these redevelopments, I put a portion of those mixed use developments, put a portion of those to local businesses. That's where they would do. And I think impact fees need to pay for infrastructure, not go to the general fund. That.
Yes, ma'am. Well, Alex Crosby, candidate for Mount Pleasant Town Council. Thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much. You've been so wonderful to talk to. You're so bright and happy, and I love it.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you have a good weekend and stay warm.
You too.